Hi, welcome to the Teaching World Language with Technology podcast.
I'm Crystal Liu. I'm the World Language Specialist at Nebraska Department of Education.
And I'm Guy Trainin. I'm a professor of education at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I do a lot of my work in technology integration.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about rubrics. You know, as world language teachers, we need rubrics to grade a lot of things. So it's something really big, really important. So that's why we have this time to focus on rubric today. First, we want to talk about quick rubric.
Yes, so I've never done quick rubric, so I'm having a first-time experience. I do use rubrics quite often, and what I love about quick rubric is you can create a rubric without an account. You can create an account, and we recommend that you do. Create a free account simply because that allows you to save things, but you can create it without.
Yeah, a quick rubric, you have a template, so you can just create put everything you need in your rubric, the criteria, the descriptions of each level, and then your grades in.
So you have a title. In this case, I called it verbal expression. And then you can do a more thorough description. And then you have the criteria, the topic. Let's say one is fluency. What would be a second one would be
Grammatic or
grammar. Okay. And then we'll say body language, right? The ability to look at the person you're talking about, talking to, and all of that. And we're just doing it. And of course, here you can write descriptions. Usually when we write rubrics, do you start from proficient and work your way down? How do you usually think about rubrics?
I actually like to start in the middle, emerging. Okay. That's why students need to be here. And after this whole unit of learning or this 2 weeks of learning, I want students to be here. So I start with our criteria. This is a cutting line. So if we are here and we're good, and then I go to beginning and then go to proficient.
Yes, and that's one way, but I did want to mention, as I was playing with this, I saw that you can actually change the categories and also add categories. So I can add a column and suddenly I have something below beginning, and usually not advisable, but sometimes you do use that. And I also have the ability to add more categories, so this can become more complicated. So it's very versatile, it's very quick. You saw in 2 clicks we were in and we were already making a rubric, and you can be done. What can you do once you're done making a rubric?
Before we move on, I want to mention about sometimes, for different tasks, we have different grades. Yeah. So on the right top corner, so you find the maximum score and a minimum score. This will help you to grade.
Yeah, so I'm going to have 1,200 points.
Wow.
I like a lot of points. I think it makes everybody happy. So, but that's just a personal choice, of course. And so you can create the minimum and maximum score, or say, I don't want to score. This is really important often, especially as we're doing this as formative assessment. The numbers are not really as important as the descriptors.
Yes.
And so we can take the points off and say that we would like to have it just as it is. So lots of options there. All right.
After that, we save the rubric. It will bring up.
Yeah. So if I try to save, I don't have an account, so it'll prompt you to get an account. But if I don't want to have an account, what else can I do?
You need to save it to be able to print. Otherwise, the other choices do not appear.
So once you have an account, you can actually save it as a PDF, download it to your, and then download it and use it that way. You can actually print it if you want to use it printed. I just thought about one thing that can be incredibly powerful, especially with quick rubric, and that is students can individually or in small groups create their own rubrics. So they have to think about what are the criteria and what would be acceptable performance, and that creates them more self-regulated learners.
Yeah, that's very powerful. And so they know what they want to focus on.
And they can see if they match up. So it's another powerful way to increase their investment in their own education, their self-regulation, and really their voice in what's important to them. So this is Quick Rubric. As we said, it's very quick. It has a few categories, but really it has very limited support for you as a teacher. If you know what you want to grade on, this is great. If you have more questions or you want more supports, we're going to the next one. And the next one is?
Ruby Star.
All right.
So the Ruby Star actually give you, we can create a rubric without creating an account, and you can also download without creating an account. This is really nice. Okay. And also it has different options. We can see oral projects.
I will go, okay, I'm going to oral project.
So when you click on it, you can see there are different.
So I'm trying to create one for telling a story. I think in word language, telling a story is one of those options. So I will quickly make an account, and I don't know, I'm not making an account, I'm just giving it the project a name. So storytelling about my family. If I could spell, that would be helpful. You can see, very, very easy. And now what can I do?
Now you want to pick the category. If you pick the category, it will show up. All
right, so let's talk about here. It's pre-populated. So yes. I chose characters, right? All stories need characters. Here it is. And it automatically populates what the expectations are. And of course, does not mean as a teacher that I have to do that, but it gives me at least a starting point.
Yeah, and then you can adapt it to your own project and change the descriptions and also the grade. Yeah. If you want, you want 100 for proficient, you want, 300, you can do whatever you want.
175 and 50 and 25.
Yeah.
That's a different way. It's basically the same score. Yeah. It's the same scale, but you can create more. Can you add rows and?
You can add rows, but not columns.
Oh, okay. So you can add rows, but not columns. That's important to know. All right. Let's talk about setting. Okay. Lots of vivid descriptive words are used to tell the audience about where the story takes place. Great. So you can see how quickly the difference between this and Quick Rubric is it's pre-populated with content-specific ideas. So it makes your life potentially easier, although, again, as teacher, always edit. Always make sure it actually fits what you want, because it may be a little bit off or a lot off, especially when you talk about word language.
Yeah.
And when we talk about more advanced students and we talk about using the language to teach the language, we may actually want to create these rubrics in target language.
Yes. And also we want to, on different levels, we want to include proficiency descriptions in that rubric so that students know, okay, in this project, I'm supposed to use paragraphs instead of isolated sentences. Okay, that's good to know. Kind of helping students to understand the proficiency that we are looking for.
Yeah, and you can rename the categories. I mean, they can be numbers, but you can also rename them and call that proficient, acceptable, basic, below basic, or whatever other words you use to describe it. And think about really using that language that we saw before in the Quick Rubric. Emergent is considerably better because it talks about where do you want to go instead of saying that you are not performing at the level that we want you to, while still sending the message that you should be getting better because you're just emerging. So think about the language that you're using there.
And if there are categories, you don't like the categories, you can create your own category. It allows you to.
So let me create my own category. How do I create my own category? I just give it a name.
Yeah.
Instead of choosing, I give it a name.
Yes.
And so let's say one of the things I want kids to use in the target language is colors. It's something we talk about, especially in early. We want them to use colors in sentences and in descriptions. So I can add this and say, the author uses multiple color words, right?
Yeah, to describe.
Multiple color words to describe setting and characters, right?
Yeah.
For example, it does not have to be, and we can actually say not just multiple color words, but more sophisticated color words beyond the basic 5 or 6 basic colors, and that's again a way to specify what the expectations are. And you can be more specific sometimes, especially early on when I taught language. I would say, I need to see at least 3. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that basic because we send a very clear message. Sometimes you write it in a more general way to make it more open-ended.
Yeah, and also sometimes we have to be careful. When we say 3 color words, students might just put 3 color words there, not in sentences. We want them to use simple sentence or connected sentences to describe the settings with multiple colors, kind of thing.
Yeah, and what I love here is the minute I sent it out, it had as many rows as I wanted, but it saved only the ones I actually worked on, and you can immediately modify the rubric. So while it is now starting to be saved, I don't have an account, so I'm not right now saved, you can go back and modify the rubric, and it takes you exactly to the page you were before. What else can you tell me about Ruby Star?
Ruby Star, if you do not have an account, once you're done with the rubric, you close the page and it's gone.
That's a word of warning, so print it out. So if you decide that you don't want an account, which is perfectly fine, just make sure you send it to print and you have a copy in a PDF or in a paper format so you're not losing all of that. We highly recommend, if it's available for free, get an account, especially as a teacher. It's not going to be a problem for you. Again, what I like as a variation is let your students go there and create their own. Again, they don't have to log in. They don't have to submit any personal information, so they can use it without any privacy concerns. Create the rubric, and they don't need to save it. They can, again, print it out and share or PDF it and share.
And also, if I would allow my students to create rubrics in their own groups, and I will choose one. And then we're going to use, for example, Group Green's rubric for this project. We're going to use the rubric from Group Yellow next time. And this way, the students really think, oh, they're important. Their rubrics got chosen.
Yeah, that's great. And finally, there is a simple tutorial with some materials on how to do certain things. And you can see the first thing is, I would like to create a printable rubric, but do not wish to save it. That's what we just talked about. And the second thing is, it is available in Spanish. So that's another resource that you can use from that perspective. So today we learned a lot about using technology to enhance our rubric creation and make it easier, make it student accessible, and be able to solve a lot of problems quickly.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you.